Not getting sound here. Okay, now we got sound. Okay, you got sound now? Got sound now? Okay, now should I do this again? Should I jump back? Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me out there now? I'm very sorry about that. When you're doing things here by yourself, no assistant, you know, nobody can push the buttons for you. So let me see if Earl, if you can hear me now over there. Can you hear me now over there, Earl? Let me know if you can hear me, okay? Send me a okay or an okay. Good, okay. Thank you. I'm really sorry about that, guys. But welcome to 4Cs1 family. My name is James. I'm coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan. Thank you guys very much. I'm really sorry for the little audio mishap here. There's so many buttons over here to check, and you're trying to make sure things are right. It's always something that you can forget if you don't have like a checklist. But I had little problems with my headset. When you're trying to do everything by yourself, there's always some kind of buttons. You know, it's not like I have a team here. But look, I'm just going to bring you news to you that former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is landed here in Taiwan Wednesday night our time. Right now it's Friday night here at 11:21. Yeah. So he was here. I think he got here Wednesday night Taiwan time. Yeah. And him being here causes a little bit of a storm, and sure, the neighbors next door have a lot of opinions, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But he's here as a private citizen. I'm blinking my eye here. Okay, I'm winking here. As a private citizen now, I didn't look too much into who paid him as a private citizen to come here, but he's talking to business leaders and stuff like that. And of course, he did hook up. I shouldn't say hook up. He did take some time to talk to President Taiwan. And, you got the cordial, welcome to Taiwan and stuff like that, and the little Medal of Honor and stuff like that, the little showboating that, everybody goes through when they come through the presidential palace. But President Tsai spoke a little bit, and, she speaks English. When she did her speech, she did it in Mandarin, but I did hear her speak in English to Mike Pompeo, Mr. Pompeo, who kind of likes Taiwan. And like I said, he says that he's here on a business trip. Okay, but he had a lot to say. I'm not going to take any audio video clips and put it here because, I may get banned. I'm already shadow banned, but I don't want to get into trouble, but with the powers to be. But he called Taiwan a nation. He said Taiwan's a country. Oops. The neighbors next door are not full. They're not happy with that. And he said that he hopes that the United States gives Taiwan full recognition. Now he can say anything he wants now because he's not part of the Biden administration, right? He can say what he wants. Okay. That's the power he has, but you still have to be careful not to trip over your tongue when you are not only within a nation's government, but also, former. Because I'm sure he still has some pull. Yeah, I believe he still has some pull in there someplace, right? And the neighbors next door are really, really going to be kicking about this. So you're going to hear a lot of news about that in a couple of days. But I think, he looks a lot better now. He's not as big as he was before. He looks like a really tall guy, a little hunchback, but I think he's a little thin for a guy his size. Yeah, let me put that up here. Boom. Let me see if I can get that up here. Yep, that's what he said. Earl, he said it. Let me switch to this camera. That's what he said, man. He said it. And the neighbors next door are going to be kicking up a storm. So maybe tomorrow morning, or maybe right now, we're going to get some of their military planes maybe flying a bit closer, which you just need to make one little trip up. And before you know it, somebody's shooting at each other. I'm not talking about arrows, the kind that blows up and kills innocent people. And this is scary, man. This is scary. And I just hope I'm not, overplaying. How you doing, Susan? Just tell me where you're coming in from, okay? I can't see what you wrote down at the bottom. 你跟写什么看不到. I don't understand Kwabala. But let me move on. But he said Taiwan is a country. And I'm sure that caused a little earthquakes, but the audience was mainly reporters, and we had so a Fox reporter, a CNN reporter was there. Got a big round of applause, but in a way that most people who attended and the VIP people, they expected that to be said. And 古怪, no 乌龟, 好久不见呐, long time no see. How you doing over there? So they expected it. International reporters were here because, you know, they knew he was going to say something of this form, and it, you know, but while he was here, I don't know if he left yet, but he was quite calm. I mean, I noticed here that security has went up. My office is not too far from the presidential compound. In fact, it's within walking distance. I noticed the security up there is beefed up. How you doing, JD? How you doing? How you doing? I know you're a night owl, right? You're a night owl. But I noticed security here has doubled, and the presidential compound like tripled. I'm not. I don't think Pompeo went over to the presidential compound. His Guanti. I don't think he went over there. But you know, he joked about how he was kind of like welcomed to see the protesters outside of his hotel protesting. You know, he joked about that. He was quite kind of lighthearted here. You know, with the hyped up security here, and he said that the protesters in front of his hotel kind of like reminded him about being back home in the United States, where people who live in democratic nations have the right to make their voice heard or get their voice heard peacefully, which a lot of places like an authoritarian government, nada, 不能做, you cannot do it, right? But just impossible, calling but kind of like joked about that. He was quite easy going, because I'm sure this is about his millionth rodeo, going to different places and stuff like that. So one major talk that was televised, he made some historical references to historical events like white people fight for their freedom, white people fought for their freedom, and he talked about his experience I think he talked about he was a tank commander while in Germany, while Russia was going through its ups and downs and perestroika and stuff like that, and talked about why the United States and the people of South Korea, Germany, fought for their rights. He made some correlations with that and his experience as a military commander and stuff like that, and he spoke for about 20 minutes. And a lot of what he said circled a lot. He stressed, how the undeniable braveness of people who are striving for their voice, get their voice heard, and opinions and stuff like that. And he did speak about how the brave people in Ukraine are standing up and fighting. Their leader and their people standing up and fighting for what they believe is their right, and I'll talk more about that later. And, he stressed how determined these people were to fight for their rights and their existence while under Putin's heavy military barrage, and it's tough. War is just not a joke. It's not. The young generation here, they just hear stories about the war from their grandparents, not their parents, their grandparents. And they really don't have the correlation of what war can really do to people. I come from a family of people who fought and died in war. Believe me, it's not fun having someone knock on your door, in my case, coming home after school and seeing two military officers standing up in front of the door and to tell you two of the people you love are have been killed. It's rough. But on the other hand, there are some things that may be more important than this live for nothing or die for something. But that's a whole different, it's not a joke at all. Now, Earl, you are in the military. I mean, you can put your opinions here. I would appreciate that, because war is not a joke, man. It's not like the Rambo movies you see on television, stuff like that. But a lot of Taiwan's generation and mainland China generation have been pulled far from that type of life or hardship. Yes, it's great, but war is not a game to play. It's not a chess game. It's not a chess game, because when you die, you ain't coming back. So he stressed that, and he went quite a bit into his opinions about how he felt about how Putin is handling things, and how people there are, they're outnumbered by crazy numbers, and the equipment is just not possible. Yes, Joseph, you mentioned this before on a past stream that I've did. Yeah, we know about the 孔子学院. Yeah, we know about that. Yeah, they are. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, we know. We spoke about that before. He talked about how the United States will continuously, undoubtedly, supply Taiwan with enough assistance to protect themselves. And basically, I bet he's talking about there is military hardware, maybe a certain level of intelligence and of sharing and stuff like that, because, there's been reports that, there's a lot of, how would you say, monitoring from the neighbors next door, or as they say, wadi, these spies within the government here. But there's a small number of citizens here who rather be next door. They can move next door if they want to. I'm sure that's easy for them. But, it's, you can't deny that there are opinions here that exist. And he said that the United States will continue to abide by the white paper agreements. And okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. There are a lot of moles. Wadi, right? There's a lot of them everywhere. And let me talk a little bit about that later, because in an early episode, I talked about how interesting it was to see so many people from mainland China actually get the opportunity to study over in Western nations, get involved with institutions who are doing actual research for the U.S. government and military. That's fine. As a research student, yeah, but you don't see any students from democratic nations going over to China and working on any Chinese government institutions, or helping their government do military research for their local concerns. You don't see that, and that's something that Western nations have to stop hibernating in. This type of this it's just dumb, And when you got so-called student exchanges, learning language, that's fine. Sending students from Western nation over to China to learn, it's fine. But can we go get deeper in that? Yes, language is not really an issue if you study it enough. Believe me, I've done it. If you really want to do it, if you want to be able to read scientific documents in Mandarin, you can do it if you have to. If you are a student, you can do it, because that's your job, is to study. But let me just continue here. He talked about China's many, or I should say CCP's broken promises. And he didn't spend much time talking about it, but he did mention the results of the broken promises made in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, right? I have certain opinions about Hong Kong, right? But the Britain leased Hong Kong for 100 years, and in 1997, I think it was, handed back over to mainland China and said they'll promise they'll give the people in Hong Kong 50 years, of freedom in some form. But that changed really quickly, huh? They want to be able to extradite people from Hong Kong to mainland China for punishment and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go too much in that, but I can go into depth maybe at another time. He's a really heavily criticized the CCP, especially these broken promises, not only here in Hong Kong, but in other places. He talked about the Belt and Road initiatives and how it's used to put countries in debt hold or diplomacy or stuff like that. He did mention that in pretty good detail and in a quick format, because like I said, this is not his first rodeo. And he really stressed, and like I said before, besides calling Taiwan that C word, the country word, he said that Taiwan is already that I letter independent, factually, but under the pressures of the neighbor next door, it is kind of tough. We have a president, military, elections, one of the highest GDPs in the world. So Taiwan is kicking it for its weight, right? Population has dropped, right? But Taiwan will, for a long time, would need international assistance in some form. And this is just the fact for the rest of the world. But the thing is, what to do from this point on. Taiwan does not accept the 一国两制, the one government with two systems, one nation, two systems. That's something they can't do. But there's a lot of things historically that even the younger generation here have no idea or understand, right? The mainland Chinese government view of what they own in the area, okay? And I'm going to talk about it in another episode. And some of their policy actually holds the same as far as saying what region of Asia belongs to them with the former Kuomintang KMT political group. And like my friend says, you have to bring the receipts. The receipts exist. So Pompeo, he's doing the rounds. He's, for the most part, being received warmly. He's keeping a good sense of humor about everything. But I want to add a little bit more to this, because this is the concern of much of what I talk about. And I'm going to relate it to situations, so what's happening in the Ukraine. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because, after the breakup of the former USSR, about 1971, the former U.S. ambassador to the USSR warned the U.S. government about certain things. And what happened at that time under the leadership or, the operational presidency of Clinton, there was a push to expand NATO. Nope, they couldn't leave things the way it is, but it was a heavy push to expand NATO. And of course, that made Putin quite nervous. This is something to think about. We probably should have taken a better approach. And this former U.S. ambassador, I don't remember his name. I remember reading about it about many years ago, but also recently. He said that it was a mistake to put in such a rush to expand NATO. And I personally think he's right. And if you have a different opinion, let me know. But it probably would have been better just to let things hold and, just checkmate only when needed. And we got the leader and people of the Ukraine who tasted a little bit of freedom after the break of the USSR, and they want to protect it. But the thing is, most people in the United States or people in leadership didn't take the time to investigate the history of the region or the Ukraine, because on the east side of the Ukraine, there's a lot of people are ethnic Russian, speak Russian. And this is something to think about. And they should have known from that point it would have been a very difficult cup to pass on. But the thing is that we need to pay more attention to, especially people from democratic governments, people from democratic nations who are dealing in certain aspects of trade or things like that, is that when you have Putin teaming up with Xi Jinping, it should be something to think about very deeply, because their common enemy is, of course, America and its allies. And that also includes the makeup of NATO. And this is something to be very, very nervous about. As economically now, China is kicking butt. And already by 2010, China already by 2010 became the manufacturing global leader, right? And this is crazy because by, there's vast predictions that by, say in about 10 years, the United States economy will grow by up to 15%. Well, China's will quadruple that. This is something to think about. Why? Because China got to where it is today by the help of Western governments. Let's put this up here. Yeah, we can say that now in hindsight, right? But at that time, even I was not thinking. I should have been able to say, ooh, this is going to cause some trouble. And, I'm just trying to be fair. If you screwed up, you don't want to have selective amnesia and not talk about it or don't allow other people to talk about it. But here comes the hate mail. But this is something to worry about. If you have the two becoming buddy buddies, or I like to use the term frenemies, they're going to focus together on one of their enemies or perceived enemies, and the innocent people are going to be the ones that fall. Like I said, either the poor and ignorant are going to be the ones that fall, because the ones that have the economic prowess, they'll just move right along. JD said here, there's a difference between expansion of NATO and the EU. Plus, if Russia and mainland had maintained its democratic path, NATO would have been disbanded. Ooh, there is some icy frost on that too. Mm-hmm. Now, Lenny Frost says that China's growth will be restrained by the following factors. Bring them up. Rising cost of production. Yeah, I can get into that. I wanted to talk about that 3 weeks from now, but yes. Production cost is rising, but resources, China has the rare earth metals right now. Japan can get them too, but that's a whole different story because, they just bought a piece of land north of Taiwan that was owned by a private Japanese citizen that kind of peed off China, but there's a lot of rare earth. It's just they have easy access to it. And Jay, like to sue by the way, James. Oh, thank you very much. That's what you have to do when you have to speak to big people. But moving right along, China still U.S. Oh, yes. Okay, now look, fair. What is fair? To be honest, we'll go ahead. The United States, when it started, stole a lot of intellectual property from Europe, tons. And one thing I talked about many episodes ago was the cotton gin. How that was stolen in order to perpetuate slavery in the new colonies. But that's something going on. Lenny Frost also brings up environmental limitations. Yes, China's vast economic growth has caused it to really destroy its environment. Because when people comes from nothing, especially after, say, coming right out of the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward, 大跃进, they were just all about making money. And the nation really wanted to get through that. You really bring in the income. And Deng Xiaoping, who I think was a genius, to be honest with you, because he kept his cards close to his chest. Believe it or not. I mean, he even at one point said to Nixon, we got too many women. Can we send them over to the United States? I'm not joking. I got the receipts for that. But yeah, you're right. Now, you also said internal debt. Yep, that's something that can be brought up. But the thing is that I find out about China and the government there is that the people, the term 吃苦, to eat bitterness, If it comes to eating bitterness, bitterness, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, and I don't like saying this, they can handle more bitterness than we can handle back in my home nation. That's right. And I want to talk a little bit about that at the end, but you made me say it. But it's true. Okay, now you said something up here. Hold on, let me go over to Earl here. Yeah, it was rampant. It's true. It's true. Right, but that'll be a whole different episode. But when a nation gets up to a certain economic level, they want more to protect their intellectual property, and that's when they become loud about it. Not when they're struggling to make money and feed their kids and whatever. Or a lot of it is selfishness. That's true. Now let's go over to number 5, Lenny. Lack of innovation. That's due to political restraints, aging population, or education. Because students are really not, even here in Taiwan to some extent, given enough opportunities to be creative, just get the numbers right and memorize things and stuff like that. We can talk about education that's a whole different topic. But thanks a lot for your comments. And you have another one for me? Okay. Let's get up here on Joseph. The CCP is gaining influence in Africa. Yeah, African leaders are quite careless. Africa needs to wake up and be very careful. Actually, they are waking up and getting very careful, right? I know a lot of wise Africans, even here in Taiwan. They're smart, and I don't mean average, okay, smart. I mean bright. They see it, and the time has come. And those who actually have a global opinion and awareness, they are waking up. Africa. Okay, JD, China seems facing a potential, it is a vicious circle of a need for increased urbanization. On one hand, right, to spur the economy, which causes, let's bring that back up here, decrease in birth weight, which will exacerbate the population decline. This is the thing, though. When people, and this is nothing new to you, you know what I'm talking about. When people in nations that don't have a very reliable social security system, right? They rely on their kids. Yep, they have 6 kids, 8 kids, 9 kids, 20-something kids. Because when they get older, they want to get support from their kids. You know, look at the culture here, 孝顺, or the benevolence, obedience to your family members, right? You have to, because you are responsible for raising your parents. They have no social security system. But now, as the modernizations happen, people are able to make their own money, bank it, invest it, hide it under their bed, and use it for a rainy day. And they say, I don't need kids to take care of me, or better social security system and stuff like that. So I don't need to have this many kids. I don't need to have that many kids. But China being so big, and think about, where's the majority of the population in China? East Coast, right? The other central and the west is, well, protected mainly for resources, water. Okay. Now I can talk more about water because this has to do a lot with the southern nations who are getting water deprived by China, which is causing nations like Vietnam, Burma, even India kind of peed off about the situation. But moving right along there, as an economy improves, it is a natural trend to have less children and more durable time for you to enjoy your life. So yes, this is naturally going to happen, but China's afraid right now that if their population drop, who's going to pay the Social Security for the older generation? Military spending, because they are expanding. They got the Navy, ships more outnumber the United States. The ships are smaller than the United States ships, and not as robust as far as features and speed. But I guess they want to use the B mentality, overwhelmed by numbers. So that's their version of the reverse of what is a Trojan horse or whatever, moving right along. But it is a circle. Now going back to Lenny Frost here, the government is planning. Is painting itself into a corner with ultranaturalism. Right? Body bags tend to some extent. That's scary. Yes. Oh, yes. I haven't seen this speech, JD, but someone sent me mail. If you can, JD, can you send me that link? Because I would like to hear this. But Africa's waking up. A lot of nations are waking up. And it is because of education, which will cause the United States to be less of a dominant hegemon in the world. That's right. The more people educate, especially from abroad, that education, if you can't keep it in, is going to better other nations, which is good, but it does cause some issues, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And Joseph, you have the rich trying to become they think they're more superior and more nationalist races they become. I have to be very careful when we see they become, because this is the same thing that happened in the United States. I'm not talking about the events, during the civil rights era only. I'm talking about the way they looked at the rest of the world while in war with Japan or Germany. The United States did, take on many of these. The United States had their own version of Fen Hong, right? Xiao Hong. Sorry, said the wrong word. Sorry, my lips are moving here too late. Maybe just too late. And like you said, see what we can do, bro. What can we do normally? But let me keep moving here because I don't want to bore people here, because I really appreciate you guys spending time with me. But I've been trying to get this out to people, especially stateside, all the time. I mean, the channel here is called 4Cs, One Family. Started off as foreign nationals living overseas, coming in and talk about their experiences living in all the cultures. And then I had to turn the tide because of what we have with the neighbors next door. And it got me to try to get people from Western nations to understand that their internal fighting, bickering, and stuff like that has caused them to be more susceptible to being taken over. Their selfishness, it will cause them to just self-destruct and stuff like that. This is the thing that I need to talk about, especially to those folks back where I come from, right? The U.S. economy has been drained by wars, by the bucos. I mean, it's crazy. Wars and, not only in the Middle East and this military expansion. When you are a hegemon, that's what they do, right? That's what you do. But it leads to burdens that, say, the nation itself can't handle. So what do? They export the pressure they export the pressure to overseas nations. And sometimes it causes people to be in other nations to be less valued, pressure, and sometimes it destroys not only government structures, but family structures. This is the thing we've seen happening, especially if you look at the history of Britain. Remember when Britain had the biggest military, seaworthy ships and stuff like that? But what happened? I mean, they were everywhere. Out here, India, Pakistan, everywhere. But what happened when you overexpand yourself? And I think this is what's happened to my home nation, not to a little extent, a lot. Now, we know what happened with Afghanistan and Iraq, under what pretext. This is scary. It is really, really scary. Jue Yang, I think it's, I don't understand this pinging, but I'm a Taiwanese, and it's so great to see people raising awareness and self-education about the threat of China. Thank you all. 多谢啦，感谢. Okay, you know when you there's a historical event that Robert F. Kennedy said, I'm Berliner. I should say that. I want to make people throw apples at me, but this mess up your monitor. Don't do that. Let's see. Let me put this up here. I would love to share my viewpoints from Taiwanese around both Canada, where I currently work and live. Hey, take care over there, okay? Wear your mask. Got my mask. Taiwanese people they don't get uptight about wearing a mask, right? Because they're used to wearing a mask. For example, if you have a cold, you don't want to pass it on to your friends and other people. Wear your mask. Nice to have you, Mr. Yang, or Mrs. Yang. I don't know. Type in Chinese, I don't know what to call it. What? Your Taiwanese is great? I like learning Taiwanese, actually. I have many Taiwanese friends, and they teach me a lot of words, but usually it's not very nice words, but just move right along. So this is something that I've been trying my best to get out to friends and family back home and other people from democratic nations, because I even today I still have good friends, Chinese friends in China, and they're just good people, and they don't agree with everything, but I really, really, really appreciate them. Let me put this up, okay? Here we go. Nope, that's the wrong one. This is the right one. There you go. Yeah, that's right. Thus, that's right. A lot of the girls here wear masks. They don't want to put on too much makeup in the morning, so they just put their masks on. Then when they get to the office, go to the bathroom, and right? It's like in New York when ladies are going to work, they wear Nike shoes and Reeboks, and they run. They get to the office, and when they get to the office, they switch to the high heel shoes, right? Looking good. Okay. Yep, that's right. That's right. So let me continue here before I put you guys to sleep. But this is something that I've been trying my best to tell friends and family back home, that the events that's causing a lot of headaches in the United States and other Western nations, or nations that were once super colonialistic, is now they have to gather the seeds they threw on the ground. They threw seeds on the ground in other nations, and some of those are seeds of hate. And now they have grown. They're grown into very tall forests. Not just bushes, but forests. Let's put this up here. Way to go. It takes a lot of patience and practice. Yeah. Yeah. Getting it more. Good. Good. But you still have to be careful. Okay? Young, you have to be careful, right? Not everybody will understand what you're talking about. Okay? The local population may not understand what you're talking about. So you really have to observe a lot, put it that way. So this is the thing. In the Western world has invested a lot in the military, especially the United States, a lot of the militarization in other nations and stuff like that. It's hard. And deindustrialization in their nation, and then the export of because of global trade of factories. Investors, what they really care about more is what they can get for their money. Investing overseas, well, if you can get workers at a cheaper cost and work them to death, why not? If a nation is hungry, they got people who need jobs. Yes, if you can work them 16 hours a day, no problem. Come to my nation. But as the wealth level goes higher and higher, they're going to want to work. They want to work less and less. They want to spend more time to, they want to have enough time from the money they make to take their Tesla drive someplace with their family. China's going through that pain right now. And it happens so fast. So that's why you got laws and regulations now restricting education's overburden on the kids, or video game playing, how many hours you can play a week. That's scary. That is scary. And this is the quick snap of the fingers that they had to do. Right or wrong? I'm not going to go into that at this moment. But it looks like current democracy, right, has in some ways been captured and is now being deteriorated by large corporations, both locally and internationally, because it's almost unavoidable. Especially I want to tell those in North America, think about it. Why do we go to schools for 8 hours a day? And why do we work 8 hours a day? I want you to think about those numbers. Those numbers are very, very important. If someone is used to going to school for 8 hours a day, after they get out of school, they're going to have to work 8 hours a day. Okay, you get an hour rest. And if you want to show that you're very, how would you say, you care a lot about your job, you do overtime, but you won't get paid that well. Moving right along. So people in a lot of democratic nations, their industrialization has been exported, and they wonder why. They're saying this country stole our industry. No, it's your investors actually transferred it over there. So this is something we got to think about. Globalization. Who is actually pushing that? So this is something we got to worry about. I want to go a little bit back, though, because of what's happening over in Ukraine, this is something, training for your job. That used to be the IBM, the thing, right? They used to train people and being up to New York. Like kids would get it right out of junior high school. Then in high school, they go to a school in Binghamton, New York, learned, and when they get out, they work for IBM. Yeah, that's being restarted in the United States now in some places. A lot of engineers that Apple get comes from a school that they sponsor in California. I forgot the name off the top of my head, but that'll probably be good. But this is something that most of us folks, Pingming, we have little control over. And we have to be very careful, especially with the Biden administration doing right now. This is my opinion. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of flack because of it. They're putting all these restrictions on Russia, which is needed, but also, especially one is barring Russia from SWIFT. It's going to cause a runoff effect where Russia needs the money. And China has a way through their version of Bitcoin, which are very eager to build. They try to get a lot of use of it during the Winter Olympics. Their virtualization currency, their digital currency, virtual digital currency. I like to say that. This may cause Russia to really look more towards China for financial support. Now, if China becomes a superpower, Black people in China will have to go through the same things African Americans went through in the U.S. I would say even worse. Now, Joseph, don't get me on that because I'll end up going to another direction, and I know you ain't got 3 hours to share with me. But that's a whole different topic. But it's not only Black people, okay? Because there's other things to talk about. But we have to be careful when we cause alignments with certain nations. I mean, it is unavoidable in a lot of situations. But this is going to cause Russia to make some quick decisions. Because as far as economy and the ramification of vast production, China can do it. Yes, the cost of production is going up, and that depends on the amount of resources you have to make products, the access to certain minerals and stuff like that, which Ukraine has a lot of materials, guys. I've done my receipts. Ukraine, I mean, come on, where's Chernobyl again? Why is Chernobyl in Ukraine? Look that up when you have time. But this is something to think about. When you're in Western nations that large companies are defaulting and using really smart ways of looting trillions of dollars out of their local government, while they get bailouts. Enron, the list goes on. This is something that's really eaten up especially my home nation. In about 2015, the Department of Agriculture said, that they predicted that, China by 2030 will vastly surpass the U.S. on many, many status. Yeah, okay, this is the thing, though. Let me talk more about this because you put this up here, JD. Decoupling, that's a famous word, right? We got to decouple from China. Decoupling in what way? Let's look at what that means. Because the economy now, through investments or investments through departments that we will never know who actually owns them, are so intertwined intertwined. What happens when you take things and entwine and tie them up too much? They get into a knot. They get into a knot. And this is what happened with the global economy through globalization. This is a very, very sad ending to what happens, especially in situations like this, decoupling. We got retirement funds from the United States invested in China in real estate. And what happened now? Enron? Well, I mean, excuse me, Evergreen, I think that's what it's called. That's one of the real estate developers that have taken a very deep fall and will probably suffer a lot, but China will just let them pay because, like I said, the Chinese people more in debt that sure cool, at least the older generation. The younger generation are very little bit younger. They don't have any recognition of what it is to really struggle. So this is something I just wanted to think about, especially when we talk about using sanctions and stuff like that. This is a rough deal. Would it push Russia closer to China? You see, if you look at how Deng Xiaoping handled things, hide your strength, he said. Basically that means, hold your cards close to your chest. What happened with the United States, because they saw China as the numbers, wow, we have a lot of customers and stuff like that. It was just all about ensuring their own investment or building an investment, while local people in the local government are the ones who really suffer when their industry is sent abroad. I mean, you probably know of the movie called American Factory. I did an episode on that, so you can look that up. This is a movie, I think Obama's company or Michelle's, his wife's company did this movie, so it's called American Factory. So take a look at that. But this is something to look at. It's something to look at. But things like this decoupling and stuff like that is really deep. So I jumped from Mr. Pompeo's visit here to Taiwan to situations going out in Ukraine. I don't want to take up too much time here, but let's get Joseph's comment up here before we bounce out of here. Okay. Because their superior status will allow them to get away with it. Right now, the CCP is still careful not to come across as racist because they still need African vote and resources. Well, when you get the power in the United Nations to actually block votes or not vote, that's something. You can look it up, the voting procedures, whether you voted to, place punishment on Russia. Who didn't vote? A lot of them do align with China. They abstained. So this is something that we need to think about. So look, what's going to happen? What's the next wave? JD, I would have thought that as one becomes more globalized, they would become more worldly. That's tricky. Worldly. Worldly, what does that mean? Are these large businessmen more worldly? Yeah, because they're traveling around the world on their yachts. I don't want to get jealous on them because there are a lot of good people on those yachts. But is that called worldly? I mean, is that called worldly, to be born in a state of where you can protect yourself, I guess? People are people, sometimes in good ways and bad ways, right? People are people, both in positive and negative ways. So, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow? Now, we know the neighbors next door is going to make some loud noise. Yeah, you're right, Earl. For a while. I remember being in China and people walking up to me. I have shorts on. They'll pull the hair on my leg to see if this stuff comes off. I've had this for years and it still ain't come off. Adults doing that to me. You know, I can see if you're a little 2, 3, 5-year-old kid walk, I would probably wonder too if I've ever seen an orang. But yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Hey, look, I just wanted to jump in here, say my 2 cents. I really appreciate you guys and a few people who showed up. 多谢. And you know, I do hope, you know, like I always say that people have a lot more in common than they think. Yeah. And that may also mean the good and bad. But I have to agree with JD. People need to help people, or else we're all going to go into an endless spiral we won't be able to reverse and get out of. But, okay, well, I got some interesting stuff coming up in the next episode. We're going to talk about more people. We're going to talk about what nations and people perceive as their rightful land. We're going to talk about that later. So look, guys, I'm going to move on here and let's put up Joseph comments before I shoot out of here. Superior. And Joseph, why do you say you are a victim too? I want you to kind of like clear it up because I'm curious. Earl, look at the African. Yeah. Yep. That's right. Look, Mr. Yang, 多谢, Viking. I'm doing my best, man. But the thing is, I'm not a type of voice now listen to me carefully, okay? I'm not a voice, or I don't have the image of a person that most Asians will actually consider as valuable. I want you to think about what I just said. And if you have questions about what I mean, DM me and I'll talk about what I mean, and I'll bring my receipts, as Randy from Black and Abroad says. But I'll explain to that later. But this is something. And Earl, I don't know did I put this up already? Yes, I put this up already. JD. Okay. Yep, I put this up already. Okay, guys, look. It's getting late up here. It's what, 12:15, and I thought I'll be up here for about 30 minutes, but I've been up here for almost an hour. But guys, I really do appreciate you guys, taking the time with me here to listen to my rant. And we see what happens over the few days because of Mr. Pompeo's visit to Taiwan. And just hope for the best. Keep your guards up. 不要掉以轻心. And take care. Let me put this last remark up here. That would be a whole separate episode. I would like to interview somebody who has been through a barrage of that. Okay, guys. Take care. And thank you for tuning in to us here, to me here, Four Seasons Family. Thank you for the likes. And guys, hope I can produce a little bit more interesting things for you guys. And if you have any suggestions, leave a message for me down below and I'll do what I can. And help me spread the word that we have a lot more in common than we think. Take care. 保重.